Mr. Chairman, Sir Clement. I always call him Sir Clement Branch, from the days when I was here. Dr. Marshall Hall, Dr. Lawrence, and Sir Phillips. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure for me to be with you this evening to share with you my experiences. Now, when Miss Thomas asked me to come in the first place, she asked me to speak about consultancy and what it meant. And somehow when we spoke again, she said, but Danny, why don't you talk about yourself and make it into a case study? I surmised what was happening, but I wasn't sure until I realized that, in fact, if I should be speaking about consultancy, we'd be having a whole lot of repetition and duplications, as Dr. Hall said, because, in fact, they covered a significant amount of the information which we would be looking at in particular. So I decided that I perhaps had three areas that I would cover in talking to you. First, I said I would speak to recent consultancy experiences. Then I would tell you somewhat about my early years, and then I would speak to attributes and considerations in consultancy. But then they seem to have covered most of the attributes and considerations already, so I can concentrate more on using some experiences to speak to what they have spoken to, some of the things that they have spoken to. Because I could say, like Dr. Lawrence, ditto to everything that they have said. And when I sat some time ago here at the university, in fact, I was here, I was block rep for Taylor Hall and that at one point in time. And I was also in the Postgrad Association. I recall having some big meetings here those times. But the thing is that I think I'm fortunate in that I got information from outside of the international donor lender agencies. And my experiences have been mostly with the international donor lender agencies. And sometimes I smile when I hear people tell you that they're going to do something, and I realize what they're thinking about is totally impossible because the agencies do not operate like that at all, and they just don't understand. Sometimes they call you to write a project, and when I look at the project, I'm saying, well, you can't write this. And they're saying, why? And I said, but if you write this, who's going to fund it? It doesn't make sense. You cannot submit that project to a donor lender agency. So let me tell you about my recent, well, I work for USAID, I work for International Labour, Bernard Van Leer Foundation. I think the best grounding was at UDC. And people tend to leave from UDC into USAID and those agencies because of the grounding you get there. I tell you, for instance, way back when I left here, and I went into UDC as a community development supervisor, supervising sites and services project in Negril, Montego Bay, White House, and so on. And then I moved into project management as a project officer. And at that time, I was wearing a $45 million project, which also included the Ocho Development Road. And we had also a $25 million sites and services project at 3 sites, Rowan River in St. Ann, Mansfield beside Siboney, and Gregory Park in St. Catherine. And we had to work both of those. Interestingly, I came on campus for a master's degree while I was working the $45 million project. And it came up into a crunch time when I could not complete my assignment, because if I did, I would be in trouble with completing my work. So I'd registered full-time, and I had to write to them to ask them to change it to part-time so that I could complete my assignments and do it. But what he said about doing your work here, I was wondering, being on campus here, and this amount of assignment and work that you're doing, what I can tell you is that it pales, it totally pales compared to what you have to face outside there in work, in consultancy. So what have I, recent ones I've done would have been down in Barbados, where we had 6 Caribbean countries to go to. I was leading a team to 3 countries, and another Jamaican was leading a team to the Windward Islands. And we had to look at a USAID-funded youth empowerment project, which we evaluated. So we met in Barbados, and then having met in Barbados, we then went out to the different islands to collect data and then come back in. One of the things we had there, and this is where the flexibility that she speaks about is important. Two things. One is that we had to go to all of these prisons, training centers, everywhere in the islands. They didn't have a way of pulling the sample. They couldn't find a way. They came without a way of pulling the sample. And this guy from the US and I sat down, because we were the ones mathematically oriented. So we sat down and we looked at the sample for some time, and then we went to Lotus. I even called Jamaica to say if my friends could send something where we could use Excel to do it. And then we found something in Excel. And he said, Danny, here's something called RAND. And I said, okay. And I said, leave it with me. I'll come back in the morning to you. And so I went home at 4. Well, I am working between 1 and 4 in the mornings. Most time when everybody's sleeping, I am up working. And it is true. Your work is going to be 20 hours per day working and 4 hours sleeping. I can tell you that as a fact. And in the morning, I'd done the RAND and done the samples. So he said, well, Danny, I'm going to have you do the samples and send to everybody. That was not part of my contract. I was not supposed to do that. And I said, okay, no problem. So somebody is in Antigua, somebody is up in St. Kitts, and I am down in St. Lucia. And in the morning, I pull the samples, and I send samples to everybody and say, okay, these are your samples. Have them arranged and pick up. Another thing that happened on the way was that there had a lot of youngsters coming, and they didn't make any arrangement to pay the youngsters to come from various parts of the various islands to come and pay. So now they're going to send US dollars come down from abroad. And so what do you think happened? I had to now take like 10,000 US dollars in my pocket, go down to Western Union in the countries that I've been to, change the money, and move from country to country to pay the youngsters every time that we meet them, right? So I just came back and went to do a SPSS course, just in the refresher. Yes, because when we had the samples all set, we had set up in Excel, and nobody, I'd done SPSS sometime, but I wasn't au fait with it anymore. I wanted a refresher. Nobody could analyze the data. So what they had to do was to get a student. We had 2 postgrad students waiting in the islands, and they actually did it for us and sent it back to the team leader. So you got to be prepared to deal with these things. It's a reality. And that program went off. And then earlier on, I designed a program for what you call a model management rehabilitation center for youths in St. Kitts. And we won the bid, and so I was on the team as the monitoring and evaluation specialist. Also, other aspects of the activity, doing the manual of procedure for the prisons and so on. And then they did that successfully, and 3 years later, they came back with another project for 7 Eastern Caribbean countries, which had a similar activity. So I wrote the proposal again, and we won the bid. And while I was writing the proposal, they said to me, Danny, but why don't you be team leader? And I said, well, no problem. And so we had a team that had to go to 7 Caribbean islands on a trot, from the minister to the center, all the ministries coming together. And we brought home that project in time. I think you shouldn't take what William Lawrence said very lightly, because if you're designing a program for the Caribbean, you have got to think twice. They are laid back. They don't produce data. So don't send them any kind of document and ask them to send data or information to you. You're not going to get it until next year. So if you're designing for the Eastern Caribbean, you have to know this. So what I did when I did the design was design so that we went to them face to face, like this, collected the data and brought it back. And that data which we didn't get, was probably almost not available. Jamaica has a lot of data. I mean, Jamaica is like a first world country with data. You can, even although he said it's hard to get, you can pick it up and deal with it, right? But this is something else. And so your experience doing this is very important. And I've had some good experiences going in the islands, but then she mentioned some interesting things also, that it's difficult, and I'll come back to that. There are challenges that you have to bear in mind. So who am I? I mean, I've done a whole lot of projects, and we have won some. I remember, just to tell you, we had a project for UNESCO, which UWI Consulting wanted to write. And they said, all right, can you do this? And I said, I'll do it. And it had to do with infusing climate change in the education curricula for teacher education and for secondary schools in Guyana as a pilot for the rest of the Caribbean and Latin America. Now, I knew nothing about climate change. I mean, very little about climate change. So in order to be able to write this, and the people who are going to be on this proposal were like Tony Dial in Trinidad, who writes in the newspaper, that lovely piece in the paper all the while. He had about 6 lecturers from campus here, doctors, who were also on that proposal. So I had to go to NatSci, to Dr. Taylor, got him to provide me with some information. I had to go to Barbara Carby, got her to provide me with information, and then I had to pull information from all over the place, sit down, sort through this, and then got the understanding of climate change to be able to put that proposal together. So what I'm saying is, when you are here and doing all this work, you need it, because when you get out there, you're going to need it to do what you're doing. Now, who am I? I'm a little country boy. I'm from St. James. I love the country because I learned to do all the things that country boys do. I used to go to Michael Teachers College, take the train to Montego Bay, and go straight into my father's cane field. I cut cane, load truck, cut down the biggest tree you want, milk goat, milk cow, do everything. So at a point in time, I could do everything in agriculture without going to JSA. Right? That was easy. Then in my younger days, I went to primary school there, and my slide, if you put it up there, shows you something called hiding and hiding. No, the other one up, hiding and hiding. No, further up, I think. Yes, I think this is the one, which is, no, back up, the hiding one. Where's the I don't see it. Did I turn it off? Oh, he turned it off. The reality is that at a young age, yes, school and scholarship and hiding. I was sent to school, but we had a ferocious principal. He would stand at the door of the school with what we call a gala wasp, this big strap, which when you come in late, you're going to get it. And then he had a cane. So when you come in, you're getting some real whoppings in your hand. And so I was late that morning, and I was running like 3 miles to go to school. And having reached near to school and realized I was going to run into the gala wasp, I decided that my cousin, who was much older than I was about 10 years old, and my cousin, much older and about grade 6 in school, said, come with me, don't go to school. So I'm full now, deciding that I'm hiding from school with my cousin, staying in a cane field for the rest of the day. So I hid, and then I went home back, not realizing that there was a more ferocious gala wasp at home. So I went in, and my mother now came and said, you remember Herbert Gale's research among children? That the children responded that if the father punched them down or thumped them, they're okay. But when female parents talk to them, the words cut like mad. And we did a research in Trenchtown, and one of the youngsters said he would not learn because one female teacher was comparing him to a little boy at home. And he's not going to learn from anybody who compared him to her little son. So I went in, and my mother said, son, how was school? And she's coming closer, and she held my hand, how was school? And I said, yes. And the next thing I know, the hotter gala wasp came. When I send her to school, you must go to school, boy. I sent her to school. So I got the ferocious gala wasp at home, and I never hit from school again. But then I got a scholarship because we had a very large family, and I could not take up the scholarship because there was no money to pay. So I had to go the third Jamaica local route, first year, second year, third year. And of course, Michael College became my college, my high school. And from there, you're able to come to university and go through. And that's what I did. I didn't get on to a high school. So I'm just telling you that poverty is no excuse for us to say we can't go where we want to go. I will tell you something about being in university here. I came in not knowing where my second year funding was going to come from. But there's a guy called Demosthenes who said that no matter what you accomplish in life, someone helped you. No matter what you accomplished in life, someone helped you. So you must be gracious, you must be happy, and you must be willing to help. And I finished it, when I came out one Friday afternoon in the first year, a young lady said, Danny, I know where a scholarship is, in abroad, and you can go for this scholarship because I got it. And I said, well, and she said, well, you have to get a minister to sign it, document, and so on. In those days, way back in 1983, you didn't have cell phone, you didn't have anything to move to Trinidad or Barbados by Monday morning. But I was still had faith. So I had a little old escort, and I jumped in it and drove to St. James Friday night. Saturday morning at 6 o'clock, I was at the minister's door. And he signed off on the documents. I came back into town not knowing how I'm going to get this document abroad. So I parked on campus, went down to New Kingston, walked to every hotel to find out if there was anybody going abroad. And in Pegasus, I found a conference, a journalist conference going on, and a lady in the conference. I met her only once. I have not met her again. I don't know if she did anything. I knew afterwards, right? And I called her out of the conference and told her, my future depends on this. I need to get this foot in the door abroad. Can you drop it down there for me? And she said, yes, I will. I have no way of knowing. They always pay the scholarship in October and June. So I went through the year, and then when I left college in June, I didn't hear anything, but I heard they were paying in July, in May, and in October. So I went home. I had some holiday job, but we had so little money that I had to go to the bank manager and say, give me an overdraft until I do my holiday work, and then we pay back. And then I went home, and there was a telegram on the table. And I said, okay, what is this? I must eat before. That's what my grandmother used to tell me, otherwise, you could be getting in trouble. So I ate my dinner, and then I opened the telegram. And in the telegram was about 3 years of the salary I was getting before I got the scholarship, and get 3 years salary at that. Now I did that year through, and then at the end of the second year, which they never did before, I got pretty good grades, almost all A's. And they gave me back a second scholarship, which they never did before. They sent more money come afterwards, and I sent them the grades. Not only that, the place I worked with now wanted me to come back to work with them. So they then offered me salary for the next year, in the final year. So you see, again, I'm saying to you, poverty is no excuse. Right? I'm sitting down in Otorius, and I made the point there about scholarship and hiding. And this guy, Scully, he says the future belongs to those who see opportunities long before they become obvious. One of the opportunities that we have to see is, well, it doesn't matter whether we're poor or rich. We have to see the opportunity to build on our education, to do the educational work now, as she has said. Because if you don't do it now, then when are you going to do it? And the worst poverty you can encounter, as you know, is educational poverty. Financial poverty is all right. And so I always say this thing written on a friend of mine letterhead. Choose a career instead of a job. And then I heard Garnet Roper at a ceremony yesterday said, go for the virtue instead of the value. And you know why? because one is sustainable, the other is erratic. You don't know when you're going to get a job, but at least if you have what you have, then the job will come. All right, so that's my part of my life. You have heard, right? So I came through, and the thing is though, that the only job that I seem to have applied for, I applied for 2 jobs in my entire life. I applied for 1 job at US Embassy, and I applied for 1 job at UDC. I didn't apply for any other. I am at home sitting down, for instance, some time ago, and a document came to my desk for a European Union project. And the person sent it and said, I know it came from UE, right over here. And they said, well, can you analyze this document and tell us what is happening here? And I went into it, and within 1 hour I sent it back and said, you need to change this, change that, change that. And then I got a call shortly afterwards and said, would you like to join this team? And I said, well, I don't know, what team is this? And they said, well, the project. And I said, okay, fine. And the next thing I knew was that I was on this team. And when they won the bid, actually by the inputs I made, they won the bid. And when they were finished with the bid, apparently, which some companies do, and you have to look out for that, there was what they call a kind of lowballing. That is, you go in at a lower price than what you probably should bid in order to win the bid. They do it at USAID, and we laugh when we see them come in and do that. And so they had done that. No, they don't. They don't have enough money to go out and do the field work and do something. So they said, all right, Danny, you want to do it for us? I said, yes, I'll do it. So give me the 1.2 million, and I take it and go. They did the focus group discussions in 2 parishes and collected data in 4 other parishes. Wrote the report, brought it in, delivered. I gone about my day of the report. After that, they were coming back to write project proposal. They were coming back to write project proposal. Even the feasibility study, for instance, for the single virtual university space, I had to go through that and converted the feasibility study into a project proposal here. So it's, if you do good work, it follows you. People see you, they come after you, and they offer you jobs. I was in the office in New Kingston once doing an AFJ activity. And a guy came inside there and said to me, Danny, you want to do some short-term technical assistance on this project? And I said, yes, I could. And then it went up. The following morning, I got a call and said, but Danny, we want a deputy chief of party. You want to be the deputy chief of party because you're qualified? And I said, okay, I take the job. So now I'm being their link in Jamaica to follow up to give them information from the donor lender agency, and they came. Now I got my holidays. I took my break. I should say, don't get holiday at all. You take your breaks when you can. So I was going to Atlantis, a Rotary Club function down there. And I'm on the plane in September, early September, and I got a call from the US and said, we won the bid. And I said, oh yes? And I said, I'm going to abroad for a 2-week period. And they said, yes? I said, yes. And I said, all right, Danny, don't worry. Tell you what we'll do. We're going to pay you up front for the 2 weeks. Go on your, I don't start work yet, you know. We're going to pay you up front for the 2 weeks. Go on your holidays and then come back. And then you come right into the project, which is what I did. And I got my salary for 2 weeks, which I didn't work for. But they wanted me so bad that pay it up front. So your work goes ahead of you, and you get the projects if you do quality work. So it's very important that you do quality work. So I'll probably just tell you back to the attributes. I'll tell you a couple things about attributes that perhaps I could tell you. Don't jump in because you feel exuberant and anxious for an activity, because you could be jumping into a fire that you don't want to live with. Some of the international groupings have a way of coming to Jamaica and feeling that Jamaicans are to be paid low. So they'll come and you should be getting $100 for your money, and they offer you $50. And they will have like 2 persons that you don't know. And you jump for this, and then you realize that, oh, everybody else is getting $300, but you're getting $50. And you can't do anything about it because you signed a contract already, right? The idea of your leaving your family is a serious thing. I mean, that project which we went on last down the islands, right? We had to leave here, spend 2 weeks in Grenada while part of the team is in St. Lucia. So we finished 2 days of training, and then we're down in Antigua while the team goes to another country. Part of the team came back to Jamaica. We had to go to St. Kitts and to Rosso, to the Commonwealth of Dominica on a trot. And you're not coming back, you're going on planes. One of our team members, for instance, was supposed to be in Anguilla. And the next thing I got a call and say, I am in St. Croix. I'm saying, what are you doing in St. Croix? And the plane catch a fire, so they had to land in St. Croix. But it left one team member now to deliver in Anguilla. As she said, we couldn't tell the Anguillans that we're not coming. We just have to have her go on delivering until the person was allowed to come back from St. Croix and go to Anguilla to do what they have to do. So it's a very serious kind of thing, and you have to do a lot of research. It's a lot of work. You're away from home sometimes for long periods. You get breaks, and you're hopping from plane to plane. And I mean, I remember going up to Geneva once, and you get caught, so you must know about the culture of the place. I didn't realize. I went there in March on this project. And when I went there in March, we went to the ILO training center, and so everybody was going home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, so we went home. I went back there in June, and I didn't watch the culture and history of the place very well. So now I'm there, and nobody's hurrying to go back. Everybody was sitting down and liaising, and then I went up to the hotel walking with them, and at the hotel everybody was outside playing dominoes, having drinks, so I went up. And then 10 o'clock in the night came, and it was still broad daylight. Then it dawned on me what I was reading, and I taking account of that. They have this long daylight, and if you want to sleep, you have to put up some dark curtains in the room in order to sleep. Otherwise, you're up until half the night, and you can't do anything. I came out of a hangar in England again, and took the wrong stop, and ended up outside in the cold. I had to run without jacket to find another hangar that I could go into in order to get back on the plane and move. So you're going to get a lot of experiences, and I mean, you're going to have to be able to deal with those experiences. So it's not an easy road. Again, she mentioned money. There's a project that I know some people have. They got $700,000 for the project about 2 years ago, and they were paid 10% only. 10%, that's $70,000. 2 years later, they are not paid 1 red cent more because there's a delay which they have nothing at all to do with. A project I know of again, which somebody was working on recently, when they started out in November, all they were getting on this project was $50,000 per month. Because the people were paying, they're not going to give you money beyond what you work. And sometimes you do 70% of the work, and they pay you only 40% of the money. So can you live on bootstring? $50,000 for 8 months on a stretch. Then you get a money which averages out to $100 per month. You're going to get your money, but you're going to have to know that you're living. And you're leaving your family. You're hopping from plane to plane. I remember one of my teammates, again, I'm on the plane going into Miami. And I'm getting a call on the plane as team leader. And I said, what's up? The hotel we book in Barbados is something that we can't go to, so we have to get another hotel. Now I'm going to have to go back on the plane. I'm calling. And I'm calling the other team, and they said, don't go to that hotel because you can't find another hotel in Barbados because it can't work. So I'm there between them calling to link up. I mean, these things are reality. I came out of a plane to hitch a flight in Costa Rica from down in the islands. And they had a connecting flight without giving any time. So you have to go up to the counter, and they give you an allowance to go. And I went into the inside to check in, okay, checking into the U.S. border there. And for the first time, the laid at the counter. One was carrying my bag, one was carrying my shoes, and they were rushing me up to catch the American Airlines flight to come out, just to reach. Here's another, that's the last one I tell you, an interesting one. I left Jamaica with a bag that said 20 pounds overhead luggage. And then when I reached down, we had a regional conference in Antigua, Barbuda. And when I reached down into Antigua, Barbuda, I'm supposed to leave to go to one of the other islands. And when I reached the counter, the guy said, well, look here, it's only 15 pounds you can carry, you know. You can't carry 20. And I'm serious about not carrying 20 pounds on Liat. So I said, boy. And then I started taking out the things I could take out. The ones that I don't want to lose are my track shoes and my track pants, because I have to run. I've got to keep, as she say, fit and healthy. And then I have to take out those everything and throw them back. Well, you know the lovely thing about this thing? Behind me were the UNICEF regional officer and the permanent secretaries for about 4 islands down there. For I think St. Lucia, for St. Vincent and the Grenadines, for Grenada, and they were right behind me going. And when they came, they said, God, what is happening? And I said, take a look. I said, don't worry yourself. And they said, just throw it back. So I just throw back everything. And as I throw something, they picked them up and put it in their bag. When they reached into the customs there, they came and said, come, God, give us a suitcase. And those ladies took my suitcase and packed back everything inside the suitcase to go on the next Liat flight. But the very last one I will tell you is this, that I got an air conditioning in the plane going on to Antigua, where I didn't even know what this air condition was. Something was in front of my eye playing around. And I had to go to the doctor. Right? The good thing is that I was a Rotarian. And I was going to the Rotary Club meeting, and somebody came, a doctor came who was trained in Jamaica, and said, come. They said the one ophthalmologist in Antigua, you have to give 3 to 4 months notice to see him. Right? And I needed to see what was happening to my eyes before I moved to the next country. So she came and called him and said, you know, we have a drink man from Jamaica, you're Rotarian, can you deal? And he said, yes, bring him. And I went over there, and he stopped what he was doing, tested the eye, and said, okay, he's going to swab it. No problem, just go on. Because I had to catch the plane, you know. And it turned out that the person was, his mother lived right across the road in Mona, and we used to have her at the dam, joking with her in the mornings, right? And we had a link up. Well, I left and went to the airport that afternoon. And I'm sitting, Antigua, you don't hear the calling for the airplane. According to Professor Curtin, you have to do the herd trick, right? The herd trick is that you watch the people in front of you, and whatever they are doing, you do also, because you're probably not going to hear a thing. So I'm sitting right up front of the hangar, and I don't hear my name call. I'm going to look every time. And the next thing I'm saying, what is happening here? I'm talking about just last year, you know, not a long time ago. I don't hear any names called. And next thing I know is that I went down to check in the hangar, and they said the plane is gone. so I said, plane is gone? So she took up the thing and called. We have one passenger here. And the captain said, but we're in the air. He cannot come again. So that's Liat for you, right? The first time I encountered that, they left me on the ground. I had to go back to the hotel and catch a plane the following morning to go. So you have all those problems there, and the fact is that you have got to be prepared for it, right? So it's not an easy road. It's something that you have to really be able to deal with. I'll be able to answer some of your questions. Thank you.